back to my studio. If you're new here, my name's Morgan and I make all things party and event. And today I want to show you how to put together this baby shower bouquet. It's made from all kinds of baby necessities and makes a wonderful gift for a mother-to-be. So follow along and I'll show you how to make all the different flowers and put them together into a beautiful bouquet. All of the flowers I'm making today are going to use these 8-inch bamboo skewers and these mini rubber bands. You can find these either in the craft section or in the hair care section as mini hair ties. Either of those will work great for this project. So the first flower I'm going to show you how to do is a baby onesie rose. So you could use a long or short sleeved onesie for this, and you're just going to take it and fold it into thirds lengthwise. Now if you do have sleeves on your onesie, just fold them under so you have a nice straight edge. On the leg portion of the onesie, you're going to take the blunt end of the bamboo skewer and put it just under the edge of that fold so the bamboo skewer won't poke out. Then go ahead and roll up the entire onesie around the bamboo skewer and hold onto it so it doesn't come loose. Once you've got it all rolled up, take one of those mini rubber bands and stretch it out over the end of the bamboo skewer and up onto the bottom portion of that onesie, about 1 inch or a ½ inch up from the bottom. To give this the appearance of a rose, I then went and loosened up the top part of the spiral and folded over the outermost edge of the onesie. This gives it a little bit more volume and texture and makes it look more like a flower. The next two flower designs are made from baby socks and washcloths, and I chose my socks in complementary colors to my set of washcloths that I purchased. Now I bought these specifically because they have colors on both sides on almost all of these washcloths, and because they have rounded corners, which will make our flower petals look really pretty. Now all of my washcloths have tags on them, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all of those off so you don't see them in the flowers. So once those are all removed, we can start working on our first design, which is a circular ruffled flower. I'm going to start off this flower by rolling up my baby sock, starting at the toe until it's completely rolled up. Now the sock is going to make up the center point of my flower and will be seen in the final flower. So I want to make sure there's a nice consistent roll, and I'm choosing colors that complement each other. Now using the nice side of my washcloth, I'm going to find the very center of that and put my hand under it and make a cup and hold on to that rolled up sock so the roll of the sock is right near the tips of my finger on the underside of that washcloth. I'm then going to flip it over and hold the entire thing in my left hand and put a rubber band over the washcloth right near the top of where that sock is on the inside. When you flip it over, you should still see some of that sock peeking through past the rubber band. If you don't see any sock, your rubber band is too high. Right now, the washcloth is still pretty square, and we want to even out the corners and the sides so it's pretty circular. So lift up the edge of the rubber band and pull the washcloth down so that each corner of the washcloth is about even with a side of the washcloth. And you're going to pull a little bit and then rotate to the next corner. Now you want there to be lots of ruffles, so if it looks kind of bunched up, that's just fine. That'll add to the ruffled effect. So this is what it should look like once you pulled the corners down. And it should look pretty round, but you may notice there are still some flat sides, so if there's anywhere that looks a little short, holding onto the underside of the flower, gently pull up on those sections between the corners, and that will help even out all of the sides until it looks pretty round. Now, once you've got your petals pretty even, you're ready to attach the bamboo skewer to it. So I'm just going to flip this over and take the blunt side of the bamboo skewer and put it under the rubber band that's already on the back side of the flower. Then I'm going to hold on to all of that and add one more rubber band over the bamboo skewer and the bottom of the flower, just to add a little bit more support to that bamboo skewer once we start putting these all into the vase. The next design is a 4-petaled flower, so I'm going to start by rolling up my baby sock and then folding it in half, and that's going to give me a nice round shape to make the center of my flower. I'm going to hold this in place with just one little rubber band, and then I'm going to put this on the underside of my washcloth. So on this washcloth, there's a designed print on one side and a white side on the other. So I'm going to put this on the underside, or the white side, with the rounded part of the sock facing into the washcloth. I'm then going to flip it over and hold onto the washcloth just behind that rolled up sock. Grab one of the little rubber bands and put it right behind the sock on the inside, and this is going to create a nice little bump, which will be the center point of our flower. I'm then going to lay the washcloth down flat on the table and pull out the corners, because the corners of this washcloth are going to be the petals of this flower. Bring each corner up into the center and hold all 4 of those together, as well as the center bump with one hand, and all of the little folds between the corners, bring them out so they make a nice point. Pick up the washcloth and then stroke your hand over the entire thing, holding onto it right below that bump. So the only thing poking out of your hand should be the 4 petals and that center bump, and you're going to put a rubber band right behind that bump next to the edge of your hand. Now go ahead and lay everything flat, so you should have your 4 petals pointing up and those 4 folds down on the table. Hold the center bump down against the table and gently tug upwards on the petal, and then rotate the flower and tug up on the petal next to it. You want to evenly distribute the petals, because if you pull on one too hard, the petals next to it will be tiny. So once you've got most of the petal pulled upwards, you'll notice that there's still a little bit of the side of the washcloth still underneath the rubber band. It's important that that side stays tucked under the rubber band, because if you pull it out, you'll no longer have petals but just one giant flappy side. So once you've got all the petals as large as you want them, flip it over and insert the dull end of a bamboo skewer right up into the sock that makes up the center point of the flower, and this one is ready for the bouquet. Next up is a burp cloth flower, and I chose this one specifically because it has this lovely ribbing along the edge of the burp cloth as well as rounded corners. Now almost all of the pieces I'm using in today's bouquet were all from the same company, which means the colors are going to complement each other really nicely. To make this flower, I'm going to lay my burp cloth out flat on the table and fold it in half a long ways. Now my cloth is pretty narrow, so I only need to fold it in half, but if yours is a little wider, you may want to consider folding it into thirds, kind of like what we did with the onesie. In a similar fashion, I'm going to roll up the burp cloth by laying the bamboo skewer right on the short end of the burp cloth and then snugly rolling that all the way up before securing it with a rubber band. I then went along and opened up the spiral, loosening it and folding over all of those ribbed edges, and I think this is where it really stands apart from the baby onesie rose we made earlier, because you get this lovely two-tone effect from the ribbing on the edge of the burp cloth. And the burp cloth also is a little bit looser and stretchier than the onesie was, which gives us the opportunity to have even more volume and texture in this rose. The final design is made from a singular baby sock. Now my baby sock has some rubber printing along the bottom of the foot, so I want to make sure that's on the bottom side of my flower. Just like before, I'm going to roll up the sock starting at the toe, and you want to hold on to the top side of that flower and then grab the edge of the cuff of the sock and pull it down around the bottom of the flower and up towards what is the top of the flower. Once the edge of that cuff is even with the top of the flower, you're then going to roll that edge over so it makes a nice petal shape, and I found it works really nicely if one side is higher and one side of that cuff is a little lower, as it looks like petals are overlapping to make that tiny rose. As a finishing touch, I'm just going to run my fingers on the inside of that spiral to loosen it up so it looks like a nice and airy flower. Now we just need to add the bamboo skewer to this, and you'll notice that where we folded that sock over, there's a little opening between the roll of the cuff, and you just want to get your bamboo skewer up into that fold and so that it pokes up on the inside of the sock. So here you can see it poking around, and then you're just going to secure this in place with one of those mini rubber bands over the bamboo skewer and the very bottom of that sock rose. So go ahead and make multiples of all these flowers, and then we're ready to start putting it together. I'm using this wide glass vase to hold my bouquet, but you could choose any kind of vessel because I'll be covering it in just a moment here. To the inside of my vase, I'm going to add a piece of floral foam that's cut down to fit just inside of it, and you could use any kind of styrofoam or foam. We just need something that we can poke our bamboo skewers in that will hold everything in place. Now I'm going to wrap this receiving blanket on the outside of my vase, and I folded it so that it's the same height as my vase, and then I'm just going to roll it all the way around, making sure the tag end of my blanket is tucked nicely on the inside, and I have a clean fold on the side that is showing. I'm then going to hold all of this in place with a large rubber band and then camouflage that rubber band using some of this pink ribbon. And I'm just going to stream off a bunch of this, wrap it around twice, and then tie a nice little bow. Once that's all in place, we can start assembling our bouquet. all the flowers of the bouquet are going to be poked into the floral foam inside the vase, but if you're going to be making a bouquet that's larger than this size, you may want to use longer bamboo skewers, and that way you can get the volume and still make sure there's plenty of length to stick into the foam. Now I'm going to start off by placing a couple of my burp cloth and onesie flowers, and I want to have one pointing upwards and then all of the others I'm going to have pointing outwards close to the bottom of the vase. Now as you build up your bouquet, make sure you're continuously turning it and looking at your bouquet from all different angles. You also want to pay attention to the colors that you're putting next to each other as well as the textures. So that's why I've gone ahead and added the burp cloths and the onesies first, because they all have that spiral look, and then I'm going to follow that up with all of our washcloth flowers because these have a different look and texture to them, and I can evenly distribute them around the arrangement. Once you have most of the flowers inserted into the vase, you'll want to start looking for any gaps. So if there's a hole between two larger flowers, you may want to move some of them around, and that's the beauty of using bamboo skewers and foam, because if you don't like the placement of something, you can always pull it back out and try it in another spot. And this is what it looks like. This bouquet is going to be beautiful as a centerpiece or make a wonderful gift for your mother-to-be. I hope you're inspired by today's project and give this a try. Not only does this make a beautiful baby shower decoration, but a cute and useful gift for your mother-to-be. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe below. And don't forget to check out our Patreon group if you'd like to up your party game with more event and party tips and tricks, plus some behind the scenes glimpses of projects I'm working on. So until the next time, you can check out some of my other videos over here. And remember, stay creative everybody. Bye!